Well, I really liked Marauders, but it turns out there might be a limit to my sadomasochism. You backed him up too far. My prayer didn't get him.
Sorry.
It's alright, it's not your fault, it's just what happened. Right. No, you didn't do that to me again.
Sorry. That's right. Today, we're going to be talking about the new game being developed by Iron Mace called Dark and Darker. They just had an open beta testing a few weeks ago, and the best way to explain this game is a battle royale in the style of Dungeons and Dragons. The combat isn't fast-paced, and you have limited abilities to work with. So, Iron Mace has reported that over 2 million players participated in the open beta. And I'm kind of curious on how this will convert to actual sales when the game does come out, as it is a niche type of game, as you see as we talk further about it in the video. Let's just jump on in. So let's start off by talking about the 6 classes of the game. They're broken into martial and magic classes.
Mm-hmm. It's sort of classic D&D classes.
Yeah, wizards.
Everything from, yep.
Which are the best class in the game. Yeah, go ahead, continue as you were saying.
Wizards, which are the worst class in the game. No, but you have wizards and clerics and rogue and ranger, fighter, barbarian. I think that's it. Cleric, I might have already said that. A couple of those cleric and wizard are basically the magic classes. Everything else is sort of a martial class. They use either like a actual physical attack weapon, or in the case of the ranger, it uses a bow. And there are some throwing weapons as well. But basically, you pick one of those classes and away you go into a dungeon, either by yourself or with a friend or two.
You know why mages are cool? Because mages can actually use throwing knives for I don't know what reason, but they can.
Oh, can they? I guess I didn't play Wizard enough.
Yeah.
Wizard was probably what I played the least. I think I got it to like level 5.
Yeah, you got to be pretty wizardly to be able to understand how to fireball yourself into oblivion.
Yeah, that makes sense, since I saw you do it to yourself and me more than once.
More than one time. It was a pretty good experience. So I think then when it comes to like while we're on this talking about the leveling, I think the leveling is really interesting because they look like they are adding a skill tree of some sort or a talent tree. They haven't, what I saw, I haven't seen much information on it. They look like in the game they have a placeholder, so we'll see how much of a difference that makes. I think what it will do, the talent tree will essentially add more what they call perks and skills, so that you can,
yeah, that could be,
because I think it's, if you look in there right now, the number of perks is pretty limited on several classes, and
yeah,
I feel like they can improve that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically, they have the thing perks, which are essentially something you can like a talent you can equip every 5 levels. I think you get 1 at 1, 5, 10, and 15. And then that way you'll have up to 4 perks that can kind of augment your abilities and how you do damage and that kind of thing. And then you also have, I forget what the other things are called, the things that are like your actual active abilities. Maybe they're just called abilities. I don't know. But those also kind of change how you do damage or how you heal if you're a cleric and so on.
So, I think they're just called abilities.
Yeah, close enough.
Close enough.
They're usually something like, for the cleric, which I played a lot of, one of them was like a AoE that damaged undead. One was a thing that basically buffed your next hit to do extra damage. And then like the ranger has like field rations which heal him, or maybe he'll have a thing that lets him shoot 3 arrows in quick succession, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. There are some of those skills that I noticed, they essentially don't really, in my opinion, make sense too much, because with the way that they're set up right now with the classes and everything, I just don't see a reason to take them. Like for the wizard, you can have 2 sets of your spells you take, and it doesn't really make sense because once you go through that, then you're just going to totally like you don't have anything.
Yeah, the same thing for the cleric, but I think part of that is a gear thing, because if I remember right, the more gear you have with like knowledge, I think it was knowledge on it, the more spells you could take. Mm-hmm. So that way both of your abilities could be a set of spells, which are then which allow you to take more because you have a higher knowledge. But all of that seems to be attached to your gear. As of this time, there's no way to buff's the wrong word, basically up the amount of certain attributes you have, whether it's strength or knowledge or agility or whatever. There's no way to permanently like increase those except for through gear, which isn't permanent because once you go in, you can lose it. So basically it's similar to, except it's similar to like Marauders or Escape from Tarkov, where you go into a dungeon and you loot and you can get killed by players or NPCs, and then you lose your stuff. So that's kind of the problem with having like attribute increases through your armor, basically.
Right. I think with the basically like you're saying too, when you go into there and you essentially go like a looter shooter would you get the loot, right? And you can't transfer that loot to, if you get good gear for say a rogue or something, you can't trade it to your rogue. You'd have to literally go into the game, give it to a friend, that friend then you guys log in again with your rogue to be able to get it, something like that, which is like no one's going to really do that too much. I think
that would be next to impossible to do.
Right. So a lot of this gear, what you can do is you can either sell it to, there's a set of travelers and merchants that you can sell it to. They buy different gear or different, like there's like a treasurer and a collector. They buy things from there. You also can trade it on like a auction house type of thing. It's a chat really. So you just have to go into the chat, say, hey, I want to sell this. And people will give you money for it in exchange. So
yeah, I didn't look into that too much. I know you did a little bit, but
yeah, it's pretty fast paced, but it's interesting. I'm glad they offered the option to be, because then what I notice is some of that stuff you're selling is actually worth more to trade it than to give it to a merchant. So
yeah, I noticed that as well. At least with gear in general, there was almost no point in taking it out to sell it to someone, because it would literally be worth, in comparison, pennies on the dollar to what the thing was actually worth. It could be something you would buy from a trader for 100 gold, but if you sell it to them, it's like 8. So
right. So like just lost his value, get him off the lot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Used car salesman.
Right. So yeah, I think the game has potential. I think it's kind of cool. I think I think that kind of is essentially the gist of it. There's some customization options too. They're very limited. You can be like a skeleton, an elf, and I think how do you get that? Did you look in?
So basically what you have to do is the more things you kill, including other players, and then you extract, you get adventure points. And those adventure points then allow you to buy like the skeleton race or the elf race or a few other things like a blue torch instead of like your regular fire torch. It would be blue. I saw a few people with those things, which I mean, I think we played a fair amount, but these people must have dedicated their lives for that week in order to earn those things, like the skeleton race.
Right.
And the skeleton race, basically, it would, for example, I think they give you, like, you take more physical damage, but you have more knowledge, I want to say, but I don't recall off the top of my head. But basically, it would be something like, yeah, you get +1, agility or something, but you take 10% more physical damage or something like that. So they're not really an upgrade. I saw some people complaining that like, oh, it's a, If they implement this kind of thing and it's something you can actually buy in the game instead of earn, then it's pay to win or whatever. And it's like, well, it's not really, because it also gives a debuff as well as, a point in a different attribute.
Right. I think that yeah. I think I'd be kind of curious on how they'll continue with monetization and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. But yeah, so basically you go into the dungeon and you try to get loot and then extract. That is almost the entire game loop. The problem is that the NPCs in there can be difficult to beat for somebody undergeared, or you might get butchered by players. So.
I think that, in my opinion, it's more of a high risk, low reward, because you get a lot of times when I go in there, I have gone in with like starter gear and then come out with almost nothing. Like gray, crappy items and stuff like that. And I think that like that felt pretty not rewarding. So when we look back at Marauders, right, like I felt like we go in and it'd be fine. And not all the time you'd get out with stuff, that's fine. And sometimes it'd be junk, but I felt like there was a more rewarded for getting stuff in Marauders, I think because of also they have like, you have quests and stuff you can do in Marauders where it allowed you to, hey, extract with this or do this certain thing. I mean, inside the game, so that like having those quests. I wonder if they could add that option into this game, having some kind of questing system while you're doing in there, like, hey, do these certain things.
I feel like they're going to, because if you looked at some of the traders, they would have like I honestly can't remember, the tab might have been like quests or something like that. So like you would be able to go to them, take a quest from like the blacksmith to retrieve such and such.
Yeah, they do have that.
Your thing. Yeah.
Yeah, they have a trade
service. But that's not something
quest,
you can do right now.
Yeah. That'd be pretty cool. I'm excited to see that. That'd make it interesting, cuz like I want to feel like if you go in, I want a little bit more reward. I think like the problem with going in right now is that like, and my personal concern is like, okay, like you've been playing this game, people that playing this game for like 6 months, and they go in, someone that's only started playing, and these guys have been playing 6 months have so much good gear, right? But I think you and I talked one time, and you were saying that there's possibly a solution for that, which other games like this, because this is not my type of game I usually play, they have a solution for that thing. Is they basically, like Tarkov, I think you said, wipes every once in a while, right?
Yeah, I think it's like every 6 months or something. So
yeah. So I think that's kind of, in a way, one way it'd be beneficial to go ahead and keep on keeping it fresh for everyone. But I also kind of would like it even if you did that, if they wiped it all out, at least keep something to keep. I'm assuming you'd probably be able to keep your levels or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean that would make sense, but I don't know how they would do that in this particular game.
But yeah, I think
I do know that it seems like there's a bigger gear disparity in this than, say, for example, since we just did a video on it, Marauders. In Marauders, I was able to go in with very limited gear and come out with like best in the game gear if I was able to catch a player unaware or even just happen to find some good stuff. In this, I feel like you can go in with the best gear and not really find anything, or even go in with no gear, or low level stuff, and come out with nothing. So I feel like, and that's kind of the risk in general with these type of games, which makes sense, and I'm fine with that. But I just felt like we weren't often rewarded for our efforts.
You're
like
just
even when
sad.
we did extract,
You're just sad that you never got a full set of purple gear. Just admit it.
Yeah, that's it. Yep. I played for it's like 25 plus hours, and I never even saw one of the unique items that are supposedly in the game.
Yeah.
It's sort of like a legendary item almost. I don't know where. You probably have to go to like the lower level dungeon bit to see that. I don't know, but
yeah, we should talk about that. So essentially what happens is that you spawn into the game, right? And you make your way through. And so it's a battle royale type of thing. So essentially the circle's enclosing on you, and it just gradually encloses, stops for a little bit, and then continues. And what that does is then it leads you, as you're going along, there will be these pillars that will pop up. One, it'll be a one-person escape portal, which means that, out of your team, one person can escape, and they're blue. Or there would be a 3-pillar one that comes up, and that is for going down a level, which is why it's called Dark and Darker, right? And so you go down this level, you cannot go down there with gray gear, with starting gear. There's no way. I maybe there's obviously people who are awesome at this game, but me as a mediocre player could not go down there. Not
us. Yeah.
Not us. So
yeah, we tried it a couple of times. It is rough. Like you step out of your starter room and hey, there's a demon, which there's a an NPC you haven't even encountered before. I hit him. I think between us, we probably hit him 15, 20 times, and he still didn't die. So
yeah. So it was funny. We were spectating some people, right? And they went down below because we died, and we were just kind of watching other players, and they went down into the darker and level, and it just like there was so many like a demons coming chasing, and they were just running in circles because they literally could not. They had crappy gear. They were gonna die. It was hilarious to watch.
Well, that, and they weren't even trying to fight the things that did pop up, and instead they ran away and made more like spawn or like come out of the walls or whatever of thing.
Yeah.
So they ended up killing themselves even faster than if they had just fought the dang thing to begin with.
Yeah.
But
so yeah, it was a pretty funny experience watching other players. So I think though. Yeah, I think the game loop is pretty good. It's not the type of games I usually play, but I know, Dragaur, you played quite a bit of them, different games, and something you really enjoy. I think it's good. What do you think?
I mean, like the in general, like the actual gameplay loop is fine. I have a couple of problems. One is like you feel not just under geared, but you feel like you can't really do anything initially. It took me a while to like learn some of the basics, I felt. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like that can lead you to believe that it's a deep game. And I think it is in some ways. But I guess my main issue would be fighting like NPCs, which, they'll drop things, and then they'll also usually be guarding treasure chests and that kind of thing.
You mean like shoot them 15 times in the head with an
exactly
barrel?
You hit. Yep, exactly. Like whether doesn't matter what weapon you're using. It could be even a decent weapon. Like I've had white weapons, and still you're hitting a skeleton in the head, and like the most basic enemy really in there for the most part, unless you count like the little spiders. You hit them 5, 6, 7 times and they don't die. And I'm just like, but they can hit you twice. Granted, I will give you the fact that like if you have low level gear, you're getting hit harder, but still, you can get hit twice and you're basically done. You died. So you really have to time your strikes to not get hit. And that's fine. That general gameplay is okay. Some of the combat feels a little clunky, but in general, I'm fine with that. But it just seems like you're so underpowered compared to everything, and leveling up doesn't really benefit you. You have to have better gear in order to kill these things efficiently.
Yeah, I think once you get up into green gear and stuff like that, you've noticed a difference when fighting.
Oh, for sure, yeah. The problem is it's not easy to get the green gear because you either have to have a fair amount of money or you have to have found like a full set of stuff and extracted, then go back in kind of thing.
I think the one thing, though, I would say is that the hardest thing we had as mediocre players is that we would go in and majority of the time not extract. So you would go in and not extract because you just get someone come in and kill you. At least for me, I know you extracted more than me, but I died quite a bit. So they basically, it was hard to make money and stuff like that because you just die and you wouldn't be able to take any of your gear with you, right? So I think or money with you. So I think that the I kind of, I think the gameplay loop is pretty good. They have single player modes. They have what's the other one? Duos, right? Or is it trio?
No, they don't.
It's trios. That's right.
It's 3.
It's 3, right? And then there's a one that you have to more difficult one, but you requires 1,000 gold to buy into, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
we didn't get anywhere near that, unfortunately, because we're baddies.
Right. So, but they do have. I think the interesting thing is I think they should. I'd like to see them add duos. I think that'd be cool.
I think that would be nice. More options for going in would be good.
Yeah, just whatever, so people can play wherever they want. I also think that I think it's pretty fun. I think it's a really good. I think as adding new options is not terrible. I think we could even add while we're talking about add an option would be great of PvE, because you could separate the players or the gear or whatever of however you want with the PvE and the PvP, but I could just see some people wanting specifically to be able to play the PvE mode only and going in there and actually just fighting, the
monsters,
skeletons and stuff like that without having to.
Yeah, you just pissed off a whole bunch of people, though.
Oh,
no PvE in my game where I get to murder people.
Right, you don't want all those people running away. You want to be able to kill those people.
Yeah. No, but I completely agree. I think they should have a PvE, because honestly, if they were to make some parts of the game a little bit more dynamic, maybe with the bosses, or because there are some sort of boss, I guess you would call them bosses, like in the single player one, there's a troll, and I think there's I don't know if there's one in the 3-person thing. There kind of is, what with the wraiths and stuff. There's harder NPCs, basically harder monsters to kill. And if you were to put in a PvE mode, I can think of at least 2 or 3 people that would be of my friends that would be interested in playing the game, but they have no interest in getting trounced by other players that are just in there to kill other players.
Yeah,
granted, not every game has to be for everybody. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it would be fun. That's all.
Yeah, I don't think it hurts adding options for players. I think that it's fine to add option. If they don't want to add option, no big deal. I'm not hurt over it.
It's just an idea. I'm not sad about it one way or the other, but
I think when taking a look at the UI, I think it's pretty decent. I think obviously nothing's ever perfect, but I think it is a pretty decent UI. It's in development. The game's still in development, so I wouldn't be too hard on it. So,
the only thing that comes right to mind would be you have a green bar for your health at the bottom. It would be kind of nice to actually see numbers for your health, because each class has different starting health without any modifiers anyway. So if you as a wizard have 97 health and somebody as a barbarian has 160, it would just be nice to see I got hit by a skeleton and I took 30 damage or something, and so now I know roughly what a skeleton's attack is doing to me, so I can have some idea of what I'm working with health wise. I don't know, just to me, having the number there is more useful to me than just my green bar is half full. Okay, that doesn't mean anything really. That's just a green bar. Right. That's just my opinion, but
no, I agree. I think adding that would be good, just to kind of get a better understanding of what how much health you have. I think the dungeon levels are good, but I think that the design, I'd like to see it maybe to be more. I think what they could eventually probably be adding is more maps.
Probably.
Or more dynamic. Somehow make it more dynamic or something like that, because that feels like every time you go in and once you played it long enough, you understand where things are. You understand how to, where better loot is and all the other stuff. I feel I think that's just to make it interesting for players. I think adding a more dynamic way or adding different maps would be kind of interesting, because it adds new ways to explore. So,
yeah, I don't disagree.
Yeah, and I think by the way, this game is dark. If it is you will not be able to see into the shadows. It is hard to see anything, and that is why this is one of the few games where I've seen a torch actually be needed. And
Useful,
it makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah, it is so useful in this game because you're like, oh, someone could be literally hiding in the dark and come out and stab you. So, you know.
Yep, I've been killed by rogues and other people that just crouch in the dark, so...
I think
the whole lighting aspect to the game and just the way the dungeons are in general between the lighting and the layouts and stuff, I do think that they are pretty good. They obviously put in some work on that, I would say. Yeah, just the layout of the dungeon, the lighting, the general mood and feeling of the whole place is well done. Like the zombies or the mummies like coming out of the ground and that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think what they've done so far has been pretty good. And I'm kind of excited to see what else they'll be doing. So, when we go ahead and in the game is like we were talking about, it's a battle royale, right? And battle royale looter. So basically what I've seen though is that when we go in, there's a clock, right? And then there's also you can see the map where you are, where the wall is closing in, and then there's a red bar that's constantly ticking, right? And
it just shows you the movement of the circle, yeah.
Yeah, well, no, because it also continues to the ticker also continues to move when the wall stops moving. So that red bar continues to count down even after.
Does it? I didn't notice that, but I'll take your word on it.
Yeah, I did. I watched some playback. I played again, and that's what it was. So basically, there's that red bar. It'll continue to tick down after the wall stopped. So what it is basically you have a red bar that's counting down, and you have a digital clock in a way that is also counting down, but it stops around 2 minutes and like 40 seconds or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Around 2 minutes, and it just disappears for some reason. And all you have
it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. And all you have is that little like the bar still clicking down and watching the map as the walls close in on you. I don't get why you need a clock.
Yeah, none of that makes any sense. Like that whole UI thing needs to be changed. Either take out the countdown, the actual timer, or take out the bar that constantly ticks up. It doesn't make any sense to have both of those things if they're both doing the same thing. And it extra doesn't make sense to have both if at 2 minutes and 40 seconds, I don't know, I didn't confirm if it does it every time at 2 minutes and 40 seconds, but at least one or two times that I saw around 240, 230 something, the timer just disappears. It just goes away. I'm like, what was the point of that anyway? That does nothing.
Right.
So it's a very strange way. I feel like they were trying to do like 2 or 3 different ideas at once, and it's just not working. I get the battle royale closing in circle thing because they're trying to force people into the same rooms to encourage PvP, I guess.
Yeah.
Which that's fine if that's what you're going for. That makes sense. But having a timer plus a bar plus the circle, it's like, what is this? This is nothing.
Yeah, it's just too much extra information that kind of is confusing because initially I thought that red bar was about the wall, but it's not really because it doesn't stop when the wall stops. It just continues. So
that's weird.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that could be something I'd like to see them do something different. I think the other thing is that I feel so when I'm playing, I was watching some video too, is like when I'm playing, when you go to buff someone or heal someone and the hitbox on your friendlies is too small, especially like if they move just a little bit, right? I think it's not good. So like there was one time I was sitting there and we came out of this room and I went and cast like haste buff on you as a wizard because wizards are awesome. And so we went ahead and you moved out of the way. And so I moved it back over to where you are as the rod was coming down to cast the spell. And it just didn't go on you, it went on myself. And I was like, okay. Like, so I think that like, I would like to see them kind of open up the hitboxes a little bit for buffs and heals that you give to friendlies. So
yeah, I agree because I've had heals literally just whiff past you. I think I've even healed like monsters or other enemy players just because it like just for some reason decided to go like under your arm. and it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But I think you're right. I think for buffs and heals, if that's a possibility, the hitbox should be increased. I should be able to aim in your kind of general rectangle and it should go to you. Like, obviously, I don't know. I don't get the point. It's not a skill thing to me to be like, you have to aim your heals perfectly. Like,
Right.
I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me, but whatever. Also, I guess in a very general hardcore, sense of a fantasy world, I guess it makes sense that if my heal goes off track and it goes to somebody else, it should count for them. But obviously I don't want to heal the enemy. Like, I don't know.
True.
Like, you can only put so much realism into a thing that's fantasy anyway, in my opinion. Again, there's going to be people that'll be like, no, it's perfect the way it is. So
I also think what we were talking about before too is when it comes to extracting, I think that they need to add more options for extracting. It just seems very like
random, which I think is what they want. If that's what they're going for, great. But like, just my opinion, when it comes to like extracting in these games, it's good to have some sort of option. That's what I really liked about Marauders. Like, I was able to sort of decide on the fly. Do I want to go back to my ship? Do I want to try to go to somebody else's ship since I stole their captain key card? Do I want to try to get to the escape pod? I had options, and I was able to kind of figure out like what's closest to me, what's more advantageous, that kind of thing. Whereas with this, it's just pure happenstance and luck if you're in a room when the portal appears, which feels like, for a game where people are like, no, skill, you have to have skill, it's all about skill. Well, extracting isn't about skill. It's just, am I lucky enough to be in a room with a pillar that pops up and allows me to extract?
Well, also, you have to make the hard decision, is what they're forcing too, is the hard decision of who takes the portal, because it's only one person portals. If you go in with the team, you have to decide who's going to go, and so it limits the number of people you can let go. I kind of wish they had team portals, but I kind of get why.
It does feel weird that it's a team game. Like, if you want to succeed and do well in the 3-person game, because they just in this last playtest put in a single person option. But if you want to do well in a group of 3, you still have to have luck, because sometimes I've seen some rooms where like 3 portals will come up. Great. I've seen some rooms where it's like the last room and only 1 portal would be there, and 1 portal's already back behind the wall, the wall closing in to kill you. And another portal is who the heck knows where. So it doesn't feel like it's basically like, especially if you're playing with random people, well, you might as well kill somebody right next to you and then take the portal, because why should I give you the portal if it's a random person? I mean, if it's your actual friend, then you have to decide which of you makes more sense to leave, like who has the most loot or the most to gain or lose.
Right.
Yeah, it feels silly that a very team-based skill game is then influenced by something so random in the last, minute and a half of the game.
So I remember I was playing by myself, and literally as I'm like getting the scroll to unravel and stuff to open the portal, I hear a barbarian behind me, and he goes, roar, and then smashes my head in, and then took the portal.
Yeah. Which, again, if that's what they're going for, they want it to be random and chaotic. Okay, fine, I get it.
Yeah.
But like I said, it doesn't match up with what everybody says about the game, which is like, oh, you just have to be really good, and you have to be skilled, and you have to get gear and be good. Do you, though? Because it feels to me, I've gotten out with no gear. This kind of contradicts what I was saying earlier, but that's kind of my point, is somebody without gear and just happen to get lucky, I can stumble my way through and get to a portal, when there's somebody with gear and skill in the next room that just didn't know that there was a pillar, a portal that popped up right next to me.
I'm going to just say, I think it takes skill to play the game and extract with crappy gear. and not pick up anything. I think that's a whole different type of skill you and I have.
The skill is called dumb luck.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there were times, I definitely am not good at the PvP bit yet because it's very fast paced when you encounter another group. Whereas the combat with a monster feels very slow paced. You have to like hit and then either block or step to the side and then hit again and be careful not to get hit by them. Whereas with players going up against them, it feels like one thing happened and then you got hit once and then maybe twice if you're lucky or have enough gear to survive the first hit, and then you die. And it just feels it feels yucky. It doesn't feel great to just like, I just lost everything just because this guy was able to get in one hit. I don't know. But that kind of goes back to the gear differential too, between people that have played, like you said, maybe they've played for 3 days and gotten a full set of stuff and you don't have anything and you got one shot by them. It just doesn't feel good because you can't really escape them. Sometimes you can. And especially if they're very aggro people, they'll just keep coming at you until you're dead. So
yeah, we've tried to run away from them. They'd be like, I'm going to hunt you down.
Basically, so, yeah.
Yeah, they've added a proximity chat too, so that's been funny with people trying to...
Yeah, and the funny thing is the amount of people that didn't use the proximity chat. Like I would, holler at some people, be like, "Hey, everything's fine. Like we're not trying to kill you. We're actually going a different way." And then they shoot an arrow at me, and I'm like, "Okay, like, fine then." But yeah, so like I don't know as if the proximity chat is really gonna matter, but I guess we'll see in the long run if that becomes more and more of a thing. I know a lot of people do like proximity chat in these type of games, and a lot of people don't like it because they say it becomes basically, people doing goofs and memes or playing music over the open chat or whatever. And I don't disagree with those problems, but I think overall proximity chat probably isn't a bad idea.
Oh yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea. It's more of a preference. I feel. I think you just also turn it off to if they don't have that option. I think that adding the option would be good, so you don't have to hear people if you don't want. Yeah, I think the overall player experience from what we see, there's some people that obviously don't like it. So we've seen people with like things that we're talking about, comments about how we can improve it, just like we were talking about similar opinions. And then there's lots of opinions about how great the game was. So like, I think that it'll find its niche of players, and I hope that it'll be a successful game for the studio. So.
Yeah, like there are a lot of things that I like about it. There are a lot of things that I have an issue with. And maybe they won't fix those because maybe they are not trying to cater to people like me. But if the people that like it, like it, and that's the audience that they want, great, they've found it, because there's a lot of people out there on Reddit and forums that I've seen, just defend the crap out of this game just from somebody being like, "Hey, what if they changed this?" And people being like, no, it's the best thing ever, and you're just not skilled enough. And so if that's the audience you're going for, you got them. Congratulations, you hooked them. So
yeah, just be better.
Yeah, just it's a skill issue. That's the new thing about anything anybody has a problem with in a game. It's a skill issue. Well, thanks for watching our video on Dark and Darker. Maybe the next time there's a playtest, you can hunt us down and make us pay for our lack of skills.